Does Matt Eberflus know that he is cooked as the Chicago Bears head coach? My name is Harrison Graham. We're going to talk about that coming up here on today's show. And if you're like me and you're ready for Matt Eberflus to be gone, you know what to do. Hashtag FireFlus in the comments, on social media, etc. And again, I don't feel good about wanting someone to get fired, but it's pretty obvious where this needs to go, and I think it's pretty obvious where it is going. I think Flus knows that he's out. I'm a big demeanor, energy, details in press conferences type of guy, and I'll admit I've probably overvalued that over my life and career. This does not look or sound like the same guy in pressers. Now, he's never been great with the media, but there's just little details that I've noticed. One, the energy is down, clearly down. He always gives an opening statement before he takes questions. There's less juice there. And he's always kind of been defensive, but he's even more defensive in some of his answers. And I'll just give an example today from his Monday press conference. Quote, I would say let me just set it up first. He was first asked about, I think Mark Potash asked him. He said, hey, this time last year your defense was ascending. This year it's going the opposite way. What's going on? And Eberflus said, I would say that we've played well at times this year. You can look at the numbers. Third down, QBR, red zone. We've played really well in a lot of areas. All I'm saying is we need to tighten it up. So he's basically saying, oh, no, we've played well. Go check the stats. And it's like, when the coach has to bring out the go check the stats card, I think he's in a position of weakness in terms of defending his like he's gone into defend resume mode, which I don't think that's a position of strength for Matt Eberflus because we've seen the resume. But okay, Flus, let's go look at some numbers. Jonathan Wood, who works for DeBear's blog, put this out on social media. He said before the Washington Hail Mary, Chicago's defense gave up 5.2 yards per play and 16.1 points per game. Really good. Since the Hail Mary, 6.6 yards per play, so a yard and a half more, 24.5 points per game, more than a touchdown more. And he added, to put into perspective, the NFL's worst defense this year for a season whole, 6.2 yards per game. Only one offense is over 6.3 in terms of what they average offensively. So since Washington, just based on the yards per play metric, you're talking about like that would be the worst in the NFL over the course of the season. Let's just kind of look at it further. I'm going to break down the season into two games. Through the Washington game, because the defense played well in the Washington game before the Hail Mary, kept them in it, and since then. First 7 games, 17 points per game allowed. Pretty damn good. 24.5 since then. Yards per game, you're giving up, 55 more yards per game there? Turnovers, 13 through 7 games, so that's almost 2 per game. 5 the last 4 games, so just over 1 per game. Third down percentage allowed. So the first 7 games, teams were only converting 32.2% of the time. The last 4 games, that's up to almost 38%. So that's about almost a 6% difference, 5.5 there. Red zone touchdown percentage, first 7 games, less than 37%. Last 4 games, up to 45%. And I'm not acting like the defense the last 4 games has been completely pathetic. I thought against Minnesota it was pretty damn bad, and I think even against Green Bay, if Jordan Love doesn't have 2 bad red zone plays, it would have looked worse. I think what I'm seeing with this defense is it's very vanilla. They don't blitz. They don't do stunts. And it's kind of uninspiring. Like there's no juice. This team's not flying around like they used to. I mean, Kyler Gordon was yesterday. Props to him. But when I watch, it's just a lot of drop 7, bring your front 4, and don't even do it with creativity. No stunts. They're not doing any twists. They rarely blitz, despite against 2 weeks ago, Jordan Love being one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this season against the blitz. Only blitzed him 3 times. It's a lot of cover 2, cover 3, just soft shell coverage, make quarterbacks throw into zones, which Sam Darnold did all day long and picked you apart. I'm not saying Flus is an incapable defensive coordinator. We've seen him have success, but it's not been good recently. And if he wants to say, go look at the numbers, well, the numbers the last month are below average, especially for the standard this defense is set, even under him, and just historically in this city. We know the Bears can play defense. Grade the Bears defense right now, A, B, C, D, or F. I would say at this moment, it's a D group. Right now, it's a D group. 24.5 points isn't atrocious allowed, but it's below average this season. and you're getting gashed. Almost 400 yards per game the last month. That includes New England on the schedule, by the way. That's just not very good. And my take is that, again, going back to he knows he's cooked, he's losing the one thing he does well. And I put well in air quotes because he's not doing it well right now, which is call defense, coach defense. Well, the defense isn't good right now. So if the only thing you can point to is, well, he's a good defensive coach. Well, not currently he's not. Not with how they're playing right now, which, by the way, just happens to be as they start to play better teams. That's another trend. It gets better teams and quarterbacks. His defense is not the same. I just think it's outdated. It's not creative enough. Like Brian Flores, Caleb torched him, but, like, Flores is throwing the kitchen sink at him. He's throwing different looks. So, yeah, it's just not that good. It really, really isn't that good right now, and that's really the only thing he could point to before this recent stretch. Shout out to our sponsor on today's show. That is PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. The daily fantasy sports app where you pick more or less on 2 or more player lineups, and you can set new lineups every day, different lineups, crossover sports. They're going to give you stat lines, and you just take more or less. Passing yards, rebounds in basketball, points, goals in soccer, tons different ones available. All you got to do is pick 2 or more players and pick more or less on any individual PrizePicks entry. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states. Got a little Thanksgiving special as well for you guys. You're halfway home to a 2-player entry win with Tyreek Hill, more than half a receiving yards. That gets you one part of an entry right there. Pair that with something else you like. Boom, you can win. And we got a deal for you on top of that. If you play right now for just $5 at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS, you're going to get a $50 deposit bonus, regardless if you win or lose that first $5 entry. So what are you waiting for? Get started with PrizePicks. Take advantage of the Tyreek Hill little half a receiving yard deal and get the $50 bonus as well. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Link is in the comments and the description of this video. I really do think Matt Eberflus is a dead man walking. We use that phrase when talking about coaches, GMs, etc., that everybody knows is going to get fired. I do think Flus is in that category. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I know I still have to see it to believe it. I do feel like it's more possible than even I thought if they just pull the plug on this thing, if they lose in Detroit on Thanksgiving. You have extra time to prepare, for the next game, which would be in San Francisco in Week 14. I actually do think there's a chance here. And I wouldn't have even given it much of a thought before the Minnesota game, but just another crazy loss, and it'd be another divisional loss. It'd be 6 straight losses overall. If it's true that he is a dead man walking, like if the Bears have already decided, well, then why not just decide now? Like, what would be the point to play this out the rest of the year? And this is not me. I'll put it this way. If they do not fire him after Detroit, I will stop bringing up the idea that they should fire him after individual games. I will just accept that it will be at the end of the season. But I do think there is one more window that makes sense, because why do we need to see this anymore? Like, he's done. His energy is showing it. The way he's talking to the media shows it. Just his demeanor. Like, he knows what his fate is. He knows. Now, if they beat Detroit, they're not going to fire him on the spot, obviously. But if they don't, and they're probably not going to as a 10.5-point underdog, then just do it. Why and what's different? Because this is a franchise that's never done it. I think you have someone in the building that could actually be your next head coach. Am I saying he'd be my top candidate? No. Am I saying they should zero in on him? No. Am I saying that Thomas Brown is a real head coach candidate in this league who's done 3 interviews with other teams over the past 3 off seasons, that was an assistant head coach for the Super Bowl champion LA Rams at the age of 35 years old? Yes, I am saying all those things. And I don't want to overreact to 2 games, but it's not just the production on the field. The offensive players have responded to Thomas Brown. It's pretty clear. Caleb likes the guy. He talked about his aura being something that makes him play more free, gives him more confidence. I'd like to see him get a trial run here, because classic Bears would just be to not do this. Thomas Brown ends up elsewhere, and in like 2 or 3 years, he's a head coach for another team and has success. When you had this guy in your building as a qualified person to be your interim head coach. He is qualified. Like, he can step into that role, not be intimidated whatsoever. Now, I will admit one thing, and maybe this is a reason the Bears won't do it. The only, I say one negative, potential negative, is that Caleb Williams in the offense is playing really well right now under Thomas Brown. He's calling plays from the booth. If you make him the interim head coach, he obviously cannot sit in the booth during the games. So do you want to mess with that process? Do you want to, A, add more onto his plate where he's the head coach while still calling the plays? Because I do not want to change play callers again. And B, do you want him, in addition to having more responsibilities, to come down to the field and be at a different vantage point when calling plays? I understand. That's that's a real thing you have to consider. However, if you do think he's someone you want to interview as your head coach, what better interview than to give him a 5-week runway at the end of the year? I would have loved it to be a 9 or 10 game runway, but at least the final 5 weeks after Detroit and see how it goes. Is the offense still clicking like it was when he was the booth? Can he handle the extra responsibilities? Does this team play with more fight and more attitude? Not saying they've completely quit, but even more than they do right now. Can he continue to command the room of the entire team? Does he look like a head coach? And even if he checks all those boxes, I'm not saying you'd make him the head coach, but that's a better interview than talking to somebody on Zoom for 6 hours, which is how you're going to handle all these other interviews. Hopefully you bring guys in person too. But you understand what I'm saying. You have an opportunity here with the guy in the building to see what he can do. You don't have to just run this thing out with Matt Eberflus for a guy who knows he's getting fired. Just look at his body language. He's done. He's not going to be here. So why not give it a crack with Thomas Brown starting the day after the Detroit game? What say you? Would you give him a chance to be their interim head coach? Because I would. Even with that one potential negative, I think it's worth the risk. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let me know down in the comments section below. Again, fire Flus after Detroit. I understand not doing it on a short week. I don't understand not doing it a few weeks ago, but I understand a game ending yesterday. You don't want to do this on a Monday when you play in 3 days. Fine, whatever. Get through this next game. You're probably going to lose anyway. And if you do, give Thomas Brown a swing at this thing. He's earned the opportunity. He's qualified. He's interviewed for head coaching jobs. He's completely sparked this offense in a matter of days, taking over from Shane Waldron. Give him a chance to run the show. See what he can do over the final 5 weeks. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Chicago Bears Now. Hit that subscribe button for more content. We're bringing you videos every single day, and we'll be live Thursday for our Bears-Lions live watch party.